Hey, this is David with TMA, and we just had our February meeting where we talked about sex ed. And I have Peter Martin and Ricky Franco here. And Ricky, you were talking from the perspective of being a teacher and principal at schools, and you really talked about that there's this idea out there that since parents aren't doing a good enough job at talking to their kids about sex, the school really needs to pick up the slack. What do you have to say about that?
No, yeah, there's a lot of statements and comments going around, I think, in schools right now where because it's not happening at home, because we're not talking about sex in the home to our kids, then the school has to make up for that, right? And so they're looking for ways to give more education at younger ages, yet really as a school and really as a church and as a community, we should be looking on how to really educate our parents in this realm instead. How do we educate our parents so that they feel equipped, that they feel empowered to be able to move forward and have these conversations on a continual basis, because they're getting them anyways, either from the school or from culture. And so how can we as a community come together to really provide those kind of pieces of resources or information or tools that they'll need to be able to do that well?
So a response as a community, not so much saying, well, the parents aren't doing it, so let's rely on the school. No, let's equip the home to do this better. And Peter, you were talking from the perspective of being a pastor, and when we talk about boundaries, a lot of times we feel constricted, but talk about just a better way to look at boundaries.
Yeah, so in 1 Corinthians 6, verse 12, the Apostle Paul writes that all things are lawful for me, but not all things are edifying, or not all things help me. What he means by that is that when we do hear boundaries and limitations, especially on our sex lives, we do hear restriction. We hear don't do this, don't do that, and it makes us feel more trapped. But what the Apostle Paul is getting at is he's saying actually certain boundaries can open you up to richer, wider, deeper, more fulfilling freedom. So for instance, with food, as a kid, when your parents put the boundaries on you of eating your dinner before dessert, it may make you feel restricted as a child. But when you grow up, you realize like, oh my gosh, like this boundary on my appetite is actually making me go into the richer, deeper freedom of a healthy lifestyle. Which is better than just eating ice cream for dinner and feeling like junk the next day. And the same thing is true with the sex life. If God has put boundaries around our sexual appetite, maybe we need to realize that that is not to restrict our freedom, but to actually enable us to enter into a richer, deeper freedom of walking in His beautiful, perfect agape love, which is what marriage should be encircled by.
Great. Thank you so much. We really want to talk about not being against something, but being for something, for the health of our families and our youth. Thank you so much. We hope to see you next month.